Welcome to the Alabama CPA podcast. I'm your host, Rob Pearson, and we are still recording here at the Alabama State Society's annual meeting here at the club. And we had a tremendous guest here giving a keynote speech during lunch about her journey into the accounting field, but also in something else, the 2025-2026 Miss Alabama, Emma Terry.
Yes.
Very
Hello.
happy to have you join us on the podcast.
Thank you for having me.
And I know that after this podcast, our subscription levels are going to go sky high.
I hope they do. I'm going to try to share it on social media, and maybe we can get you guys a little more coverage.
That's what I'm talking about. Yeah, there'll be a little extra in your check when you leave.
Oh my gosh, no, we don't do it for the money.
That's right. Yeah, I'll double it,
Thank you. I appreciate that.
Well, listen, it's such an honor for you to be here because, that you've done a lot already. And I just heard a little bit about your story that you told here at lunch. And first of all, the relevance is you're an accounting graduate. Mm-hmm. You're an accounting master's degree graduate, mm-hmm. UAB. Mm-hmm. But the journey to get to that point, never mind the beauty pageants.
Right.
But with your granddad and ALS, which is your, can you tell a little bit about what you just told the group about the late nights and the caregiving and then having to keep up with studies?
Yeah, absolutely. So part of being a caregiver mm-hmm. is that sometimes it's sort of a hurry up and wait sort of situation. But for the viewers who aren't familiar with what ALS is, ALS stands for amyotrophic lateral sclerosis. It's a progressive neurodegenerative disease that affects nerve cells in the brain and spinal cord. So it slowly paralyzes someone. It paralyzes them to the point where they can't breathe. So it's a devastating and debilitating disease. And when you watch it happen so slowly and progress so slowly, it's horrible. And that's what happened with my grandfather. My mom was pregnant with me when he was diagnosed. And so he had ALS for 22 years, which is a very unusual case, as the average lifespan is 2 to 5 years. And so he beat the odds, absolutely. Mm-hmm. But the disease progressed so slowly and just one by one took his abilities away. And I grew up watching that. And I have been a caregiver for as long as I can remember. And, when I was a little girl, it was more of a helper role. Mm-hmm. So I learned to tie his shoes before I learned to tie my own. I would help him put his socks and shoes on because he couldn't do it himself anymore by the time I was old enough to start helping. And then, through middle and high school, I helped him with meals and with feedings. And, some of my earliest core memories are getting early morning or late night phone calls that he had fallen or that something had happened. And so I don't remember a time in my life without ALS. ALS has always been so prominent, and it was my normal growing up. And the older that I got, the more that I realized, I'm at Grandparents' Day, and my grandfather can't be here. He physically can't be here. Not because he doesn't want to, but because ALS won't let him be here. And so when it got to the point where I could compete in Miss Alabama's Teen, there's the Miss Alabama organization, and Miss Alabama's Teen is our sister mm-hmm. program. So you've got this Miss Teen, big sister, little sister kind of relationship. And to compete, you have to have a service initiative. And I always knew that I wanted to do something and share our ALS story. And mm-hmm. this was the perfect way and place for me to do that. And so my answer was just sitting right in front of me. And it was the perfect way for me to tell our story. Because what you don't realize is ALS is labeled as a rare disease. But there are so many people who are affected by it. Sure. Because what happens when someone has ALS, the community and their families rally around them to support them in that journey. So there's a lot more people who know what ALS is and who have been affected by it than you realize. But growing up, I thought we were alone. I didn't know there were other people who had it. I didn't know there was this incredibly strong community of people who were battling ALS. And so when I started advocating, of course, when I was 14, I had no money, no connections, and didn't know what I was doing, but I started. Mm-hmm. So the entire idea behind stomping out ALS one step at a time is that the smallest steps can make the biggest differences. Because I thought, well, if I can do something, if I can raise a couple of dollars, if I can educate a handful of people, those numbers will only grow. the more people that I make connections with. And so that was the idea behind Stomping Out ALS. And now Stomping Out ALS is a 501c3 nonprofit organization. I have fundraisers every year. I partner with national organizations like Racing for ALS. We have Stewart's Race every year at Barber Motorsports Park. So it's grown into something even bigger than I could ever imagine. I was even a community service finalist, and I was second runner-up for the Community Service Quality of Life Award at Miss America, and that was just incredibly gratifying because I do it all for my grandfather and for the ALS community. But Grandy, he passed away about 2 years ago, and so his ALS battle ended, but the mission is still ongoing. The mission to find that cure, the mission to continue to help the ALS community.
What a wonderful platform that is. I'm sitting here, thinking, Miss Alabama, you sort of reached, the pinnacle of glamour and all the things that come with the hairspray and what'd you say, the hairspray and the
fake eyelashes and the high heels. Right? It's part of it. You can't deny it.
But the juxtaposition, if that's the right word, of the caregiving for your grandfather to Miss Alabama is incredible to me. And I think that there's a lot of work ethic is the first thing that comes to mind in that. And then to sort of match work ethic with accounting, because along the way that you're doing this, you're getting an accounting degree, which is not anywhere remotely close to easy.
No, it's not. And I think a lot of people just boil it down to numbers, but it's not just numbers. It's not just a calculator. It's not just a spreadsheet. It is critical thinking. It's taking rules from the tax code and applying them to situations. It's taking rules from audit standards and applying them to situations. And there's a lot of gray area. There is a lot of gray area in accounting and in life, and you have to, accounting makes the world go round. Finances makes the world go round. So you have to be able to really critically think and be able to do what's best for your client in any situation. And so that's what I was taught at UAB. And so those critical thinking skills, and, it's hard. It's not easy by any means. And so I would, after late night classes and early mornings, the first thing that I do is go home to my grandparents. I wouldn't go to my house to study. I didn't have a desk in my room. I had a lovely, comfortable lounge chair in their bedroom, and I'd sit in their kitchen and listen out for my grandfather and, help them every way I could, all while learning about financial accounting, or studying for audit.
Was it kind of a distraction almost at times?
Well, yeah.
In the moment?
I'm not in a bad way. It was just
right.
the nature of the situation.
Yeah.
When you're in an ER waiting room and you're trying to study for income tax, it's not necessarily it's not the ideal situation,
right.
Not the ideal circumstances to be studying.
It's not how most people do it.
It's not how most people do it. And, there was a time where my grandfather, he needed something constantly. And that's not bad. It's what happens. It's what this disease does to someone. So it's a lot of up and down. It's a lot of back and forth. It's a lot of, oh my gosh, where did I just leave off in this problem or this homework assignment? Or, it wasn't easy, but we got through it. And I wouldn't trade that for the world. I wouldn't trade that time with him. I wouldn't trade any of it for the world. I mean, I wish he wasn't sick, and I wish we didn't have to go through that. But if he had to be sick and it had to happen, then having that time with him and being able to be so present through all of it, that's what I would have chosen any day of the week.
So your experience, and then followed up with the experience as Miss Alabama, the time management skills that had to come into play, because most people that get out of college don't always have the time management skills necessary to be a 20-year veteran in the profession per se. But your time management skills have to be pretty precise by now.
They do. And, not a lot of people think about this, and not a lot of people realize how that time management comes into play. So as Miss Alabama, especially as Miss Alabama, you have to maintain a lot of things. My talent is ballet on point, so I'm a ballet dancer. I dance to Flashdance, What a Feeling, from the iconic movie Flashdance. And so you have to maintain your talent and your technique there. You also have to maintain a certain physical standard, because you need to stay in your best shape, because not only for aesthetics, but because you have to be healthy. You have to be strong. You have to get through this year and finish strong. That's what comes with the job.
That's the job, right?
And then on top of that, when just Miss Alabama alone, you have to budget time in your day. Let's say you have an event. Let's say I had to be here at 8 a.m., for example. Well, I have to budget the time to drive here, budget the time for traffic, and then I have to budget the time to get ready. So that's a 5 o'clock wake-up call for me. Because, I usually allow maybe between 45 minutes and an hour to get anywhere. Just because you never know with downtown traffic. Right. And so, but then I have to budget. It sounds insane, but it's what it takes. 2 hours to get ready. And that's what you have to do. So you learn a lot about budgeting and time management. Let's say I had an event at 11 and I wanted to work out before because I only had events for the rest of the day. There's so many things that you have to think about and balance and budget. And it's not just about working out and doing your hair and makeup and all of those things, but you also have to think about, okay, when do I need to get there so I can get out of my car, walk in, be able to meet and greet people and not be rushed and do all of these things and, get ready for the next thing the next day. So there is a lot of time management, but there's also a lot of flexibility that comes with it too, because, I mentioned HB 407, the bill that I wrote, the piece of legislation that passed that designates Miss Alabama as an official ambassador of the state. And you have to be so flexible, because I would constantly get calls from, shout out to Representative Susan DuBose. Love her.
Awesome.
She's fantastic.
Love Susan
and she,
DuBose, yeah.
the last few days of session, she said, look, this might get crazy. And I'm like, it can't get any crazier than what I'm already used to. And she called me one day at like 11:30 and she said, the bill's on the calendar. We need you down here now. And I was like, Susan, I don't have makeup on. And she was like, well, you better get it on and come down here, because it's a 2-hour drive to Montgomery, essentially. Right. So anyway, it's a lot of flexibility. It's a lot of going with the flow. Yes,
and
you
bring
have
your
to.
crown, right?
The crown is in the car at all times.
That's right.
Crown, makeup, an extra dress, a backup pair of heels.
Oh, wow.
You never know what you might need.
Yeah.
So it teaches you a lot. Being Miss Alabama teaches you a lot, not just, the hair, the makeup, the fake eyelashes and heels that we talked about, but it really teaches you how to be a flexible, efficient, and effective person, just like accounting does. So they're more related than you realize.
I can't imagine anybody doesn't want to hire you now
Oh.
based on these qualities that we've clearly demonstrated, but they've got to wait a bit, maybe. I mean, depending on your future. You said you want to go to law school.
I am going to law school.
Beautiful Sanford University, my alma mater.
The stunning Sanford University. So I'm going to Cumberland School of Law in the fall. I am so thrilled and just thankful to the good Lord above for making that happen. I have a very funny story to share. I have shared this before, but I was at Admitted Student Day. I had an appearance right after the Admitted Student Day at Cumberland. So I had to go to this all-day event, full glam, full hair, full makeup. And it wasn't a ponytail day like today is. It was like a hair down kind of day.
Were people like, who does she think she is?
I think so. I think they were. And I was in a bright pink dress. I didn't quite mean to pull like a Legally Blonde brunette moment. I didn't mean to do that. But I was in a neon pink dress. And I was like, oh, no, I'm sticking out like a sore thumb. And then they get to the lunch, and it's a great day. Learn so much about Cumberland and Sanford. And they get to the lunch. They have a speaker, and her whole point is that she had a non-traditional path to law and to Cumberland. That just went right over my head. I wasn't picking up what she was putting down in this moment. And she said, how many of you have been dreaming of being an attorney since you were a kid? My hand raised. I was the only hand that raised. And I was like, oh, she meant that in an ironic way. Like, she didn't want it. Her point was for nobody to raise their hand, and I should have gotten that. I did. I looked around and I was like, oh, oops. So that was my moment. Even more sticking out. So anyway, but I have wanted to be an attorney since like the 4th grade. I decided I was going to be an attorney. I was going to be someone, I didn't quite understand like the advocating for other people at the time, but I knew that it was going to be a way for me to do something meaningful. Like that's how my mom had explained it to me. And I said, oh, I want to do that. I want to help other people. I want to defend people or prosecute people or, I understood it and I knew that I could be someone who essentially argued my point. And got it across to an audience of people. And I wanted to do that. And I've wanted to do that for as long as I can remember. And then the more that I researched, okay, what what path is my career going to take? So I'm a junior, senior in high school, and I, thought about, okay, I could be an attorney for people with disabilities because I really understand what people with disabilities go through. I literally have to be my grandfather's voice in certain situations because he cannot speak for himself. He literally does not have the ability to speak because ALS took that from him. Could do that, and then all of a sudden, life is getting a little more real, and I'm graduating high school, and I realize I have no knowledge of finances. None whatsoever. I don't know how to invest. I don't know the first thing about taxes. I understand basics and that you have to do them, but I just didn't know. And so I thought, you know what? And I'm also coming from a single parent household. So it's just me and my mom. And I thought, okay, I want to do something where I can learn something that's going to be applicable to my daily life. And if something happens to law school in that path, I want a career that I know is going to be something stable. And something that I can not only learn from for my own personal reasons, but I can help other people. Because I know that there are other people who feel like me, and maybe I could bring that financial knowledge to them too, whether that's in a rural community in our state or whether that's in high school classrooms across the state. So I decided, okay, I'm going to study accounting, major in accounting at UAB, see where that takes me. And I realized they had a fast-track master's program, and I said, boom, that's what I'm going to do. And I set this lofty goal for myself to do my bachelor's and master's simultaneously in 4 years. And I sat down with an advisor, and I said, can I do it? And she said, I don't know. Can you? And I said, well, are y'all going to let me do it? Is this doable? And she said, it might be a little difficult, but I think if you're that determined, then you can do it. And lo and behold, got through it. I was questioning my life's choices at certain points. But, when I was trying to do consolidations and mergers and acquisitions and advanced accounting while simultaneously trying to understand government and nonprofit accounting, that was a moment where I was like, ooh, I'm using both sides of my brain at the same time.
Right.
Ooh, this is interesting. But I made it through. And I'm so grateful for the community and the support that I had within the UAB Collat School of Business. And so it's just been such an interesting path. So I did all of that, got the master's. But I knew the entire time that I was going to law school. Law school was the goal, and I was going to use my accounting degree. And I spoke to some attorneys and some leaders in the community and, obviously talked with my mom. And she said, here's something you could do. You can become specialized in some sort of like financial law, tax law, something. So I did some more research, and I decided bonds is what I wanted to become specialized in. Public finance, working with municipalities, working with school districts, working with governmental entities, working with the state, working with maybe even federal bonds. And that seemed something that was going to be interesting for me personally. But I know that, law school will open up opportunities and things like that for me. So I'm open-minded, but right now that's the path that I want my career to take too.
Very much needed. There's a lot of business out there for municipal bonds, counties, and so, all the local water boards and hospital boards and all the things. And so your talents will be very much utilized in that space. I promise you. So, you just made a commitment to 150, 200 people out there that you would get your CPA.
Yeah, I want to get my CPA. I don't know when, but I am going to get it.
Well,
I will get it.
I am. Here's what I know just from our 18-minute talk. You'll do it. I have no question. Emma Terry, our most recently reigning Miss Alabama. I guess I'm saying that right. Alabama.
Miss Alabama in 2025.
2025.
Yes,
okay.
sir.
Thank you very much for clarifying that.
Thank you.
Join us on the Alabama CPA podcast. Best of luck to you.
Thanks
Thank
for
you
having
for coming
me.
and speaking to us.